Welcome to episode 2 of Juice Pro Wrestling. Motherfuckers, get ready for a flashback to the 80s as we go with the Jerry Heller of professional wrestling podcasting and podcasting in general, Sreten the Savage. Sreten, this is all about you and your love of 80s, early 90s, mid-90s professional wrestling. But this is the era we're going to talk about in this episode. Spot. I'm going to put you on the fucking spot, man. Sreten's the guy, the man behind the scenes, the Jeremy Borash, the fucking Vince McMahon of JP Dub. So we want to get his opinion on, just kind of where he's coming from as a wrestling fan, just like we'd like to know from all you guys that listen to JPW podcast.
I'm an open book.
Yeah.
And I was Sting for Halloween 2006.
Really? 2006?
Went to a Crown Point haunted house. Nobody came near me.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably because you're the size of Rusev.
Here's a funny
thing. People
thing.
can't handle a fat Sting.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing about that is,
red face Sting.
For those of you that know me,
Wolfpack.
I'm an extreme metal vocalist. I've done things with Decrypt, Moist Disciples, and most currently Handsome Prick. But the point of that story is all the shows and festivals that I constantly play, they're in extreme metal. You have the guys that wear the what do they call that?
Skyliner?
The corpse paint. The black metal shit. The Sting makeup.
Yeah.
And I always see him walking by. Dude.
Warrior.
Yeah. We are evil. Every time I see him walk by, though, I'm like, hey, Sting. I remember the last, Full Terror Assault 2015. A guy walked past me, and he's wearing the corpse paint. And I just looked at him, I was like, Sting, hey, what's up? He turns around, and he's like, did you just call me Sting? I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, you're fucking Sting. But, it's something I think that's funny. And metal guys, underground metal dudes don't know how to take it, They all wear that corpse paint shit. Look like
serious.
Sting, yeah.
King Diamond.
So serious. Yeah.
I went to my first hardcore punk show like 2 weeks ago to see American Nightmare.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but those dudes are like the audience.
Yeah.
Actually, the band too was cool. They were serious, but those dudes are fucking serious. Serious punch dancing.
Oh yeah, that shit. The hardcore.
I like a little salsa. I like a little merengue. Those guys are.
That's when the guys from JP Dub break in.
Yeah.
The guys from JP Dub break in and put you in a fucking torture rack and call it a night. That's right. So anyway, Sreten, episode 2, we're just gonna go off the whim here. This is what I fucking the Juice himself.
Anything. I'm trying. There's
the Sheik.
Here's the opening. There's on YouTube. If you go look up what's his face, Macho Man being interviewed by Mean Gene.
Oh yeah,
Cream of the crop.
And I'm trying to get a good Mean Gene too, but that's tough.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh my God, get out of here!
Incredible talent this morning.
Remember the Seinfeld? He was interviewing Bobby Heenan and Rick Rude. I think it was like a SummerSlam or some shit, and the back WWF logo just fell, and he turns out, he's like, "What the fuck?"
Is he still alive?
Oh yeah, he likes to drink.
Yeah, I saw him at C2E2 last year. He's very frail, but.
Speaking of like the drink, Mean Gene Okerlund, a little bit of history for you. For those of you who don't know, JPW, Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast, produced by the Green Door Network. We're coming at you from Hobart, Indiana, Northwest Indiana. And we're talking about Mean Gene Okerlund. And when I was a kid growing up, Hobart Lanes is a bowling alley. There was a pizza place that as a kid I worshipped it, Mean Gene's Pizza. And I was like, holy shit. There is a sign out there lit up, and it has Mean Gene Okerlund on there holding a fucking pizza pie, and it was Mean Gene's fucking pizza.
Incredible pizza.
Incredible fucking pizza. Oh my God. And I cannot remember if I had any of it. I just remember
the sign.
I loved the sign, and then I don't know, I can't, maybe when I graduated, like 2001, something like that. It might have even been gone a little bit before then, but I just remember that sign disappearing, and I remember asking one of the ladies in there, what the fuck happened to Mean Gene's Pizza? Like that was legit, too legit to fucking quit. And I forgot what she said. I think it was like, oh, well, just stop doing that, and one of the guys that work here took the sign, and it was just like the worst ending to a story.
We've got to get our hands on that sign.
Right.
Oh my God! This was
sign.
And once again wrestling and the topic relating to where we're from. Mean Gene's Pizza. That do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
That was a great time, you know. But getting back to the Mean Gene, loving him some alcohol, you know, as I drink Lagunitas, a little something, something. Shout out to them, quality brewery out of Chicago, Illinois,
around.
yeah, and California. You know, I spent a number of hours in your fine establishment during Riot Fest last year, and
fantastic brewery to take a tour in.
Oh, I took a
Pretty
tour.
awesome.
Trippy.
Yeah.
A tour of the back.
But on YouTube, it's Macho Man, Mean Gene, and Mean Gene starts like, and here's another wrestler taking a 180, and then Macho Man's like 180, and then he's like, and taking another 360, 360, and he just kept like spinning in a circle, and it was so good. But there's a second one where he's like, Mean Gene does his and I love it. I'm gonna try to memorize the whole thing, but Mean Gene does his intro, and then Macho Man comes like from off mic from far away. He's just going, and the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. Yeah. Cream rises to the top.
yeah, Randy Poffo in the studios here at JP Dub.
The resurrection of Randy.
So I'm gonna work on it.
Sreten the Savage. That's what it's all about. But you know, we're talking about so Sreten, just that's kind of the era of professional wrestling that you were first acquainted to. Then and we'll call it the golden era, the Hulk Hogan era.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 40 in a month or 2 months.
Word to the motherfucker.
And yeah, I was in that era of Saturday morning wrestling. When those
remember
interviews lasted long.
Yeah.
The filler,
And,
you watch
those are the
cartoons
good
and you watch
days.
wrestling.
And there was a lot of Bobby Heenan, and there was
Yes.
a lot of Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes.
Those guys together that was money.
That was a transition with Jesse the Body. then
Jesse the Body
into
was great
wrestler,
too
It
with
was.
and then he
Gorilla.
became an announcer. Yeah, with
Yep.
Gorilla.
Yeah, and even dude, at one point in time they had Tony Schiavone before he went
To WCW.
yeah.
But it was
Nitro.
so my history doesn't last long with wrestling. So it's the Saturday morning stuff. Watching a couple WrestleManias at like a buddy's house when I was like maybe 11 or 12, maybe younger. And
What's
then
the last WrestleMania you remember watching as a kid?
before 1 through one of the
Before you
1
were a
through
giant
10s.
savage.
I think the one that which one was it? It might have been the first one that Hogan
Three.
body slammed the giant.
I already
yeah.
knew what you were saying.
He said
Pontiac Silverdome.
Yeah, Andre.
And then we would go nuts. So it was
That-
a couple years after that when the Warrior came out.
Yeah.
So we went apeshit for the Warrior during. Every time he
everybody
ran
did.
in, like we just
Yeah.
started running.
Yeah, and he
As
was
a kid.
he was out of gas by the time
Yeah.
the match
Well,
started.
you know what? And people could talk shit all they want, but here's the thing: is that character and that thing. I mean, I was totally a Hogan guy, but when you seen the Warrior and that as a kid, that shit just sucked you in, man. That guy running down there, and whether he was
Well, he
gas,
was-
and
he was
didn't-
electricity.
He wasn't a great, yeah. But and that's the thing about some of these wrestlers. You know, we don't love them. Not all of them that we love are because they're the greatest athletes or whatever. Everybody's got their own thing. They got whether they're good on the mic. You got guys like The Rock, and you know The Rock. I mean, he can go in the ring, but he's not one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever. But the motherfucker, I mean, dare we say, is he not maybe the biggest thing superstar wrestling has ever produced now?
We'll see.
I mean,
Maybe
he's
not.
kind of ganging. Hogan was always the guy, and I'm a Hogan fan. But when you
I think
look
he
at,
surpassed
if you're
Hogan.
talking crossover, yes.
I mean, but maybe you can't say that now. You can never say that because Hogan was the guy who set the bar for.
But
that.
Hogan didn't do blockbuster films.
It doesn't matter. It's not about
Jumanji
that.
just
It's
hit
not
$1 billion.
Yeah, but it's
like
not
Mr.
about that.
Nanny wasn't hitting.
No.
$1 million.
No, it's not about that. What it's
Sounds
about
like a
is
Jordan
it's the
LeBron
appeal.
argument.
It's the
Right,
appeal, though. Back when Hogan started doing that, no other wrestler was doing. Whether they were shit films or not, no one was
I mean,
doing.
he's the only wrestler to ever be on the cover of
You know.
Sports Illustrated.
which I own, 1985 Sports
I'm waiting
Illustrated.
for The Rock to do the
Wrestling's
remake of
top
Suburban
banana.
Commando.
Oh, I'm waiting for it too. You're a dead man, Ramsey.
He's got Rampage coming out, his next movie.
Yeah,
The Undertaker.
I cannot believe they took that fucking video game, which I have the little mini arcade version now. It's awesome, 8-bit. Fuck your life. And made a fucking movie out of it. But you throw Dwayne Johnson in anything, and
It's
you know,
gonna sell.
except Baywatch. Yeah, I think he just got a Razzie
was-
for that, and
there
he
was no
he
hope.
did the right thing. I like the way he accepted his award.
Yeah, he's bashed it since then. Yeah.
Well, you know, he's just kind of like, you know, we made a bad movie. Not all of them are winners. But my point is collectively, like as far as draw and mass appeal, is The Rock not the biggest name now ever, other
No.
than Hulk Hogan?
No.
Because now you even, I mean, I'll put this way: I have a 10-year-old son. right? And he knows, he's well aware of Hulk Hogan, you know?
Well, yeah, because his dad's obsessed with him, but doesn't want to meet him.
But anyways, this guy, motherfucker.
Always bringing up bullshit.
Give me the fucking nucks.
Yeah, I'm just
Dig
saying.
deep in the tights.
I paid for him to meet him, and then he didn't want to meet him.
That's an argument to be made, though.
Elizabeth.
Honestly, though, when you think as far as mass appeal across all social media platforms and just media in general, The Rock has to be the number one guy.
I don't know.
Even past Stone Cold. I mean, he's a top fucking guy in Hollywood. He's a top draw in wrestling. What do you want? You know?
Was there any point? So Hollywood-wise, yeah.
Hollywood. Yeah. But
Sto-
I'm
do
just
you
talking
think
about
Stone,
in
isn't
general.
there a period
As-
like you guys would know better than I would, but didn't Stone Cold sort of save wrestling?
Yeah,
for
he
that
did.
little era?
Well, technically, Jake the Snake, who's going to be at the Art Theater March 25th in Hobart, Indiana, for the Anti-Variety Show, he saved wrestling because he's the one who inspired Stone Cold to come out with the Austin 316 because Jake had gone to the hospital, I believe, after his first match in the King of the Ring tournament before he was going to face Stone Cold. Well, when he came back, he was informed that because when Jake the Snake first came back to WWF,
He was fat. And he
well,
thumbed Bibles.
anyways,
And was a drunk.
he became a
fat
Bible
person.
thumper and had quit drinking and everything, and so then Stone Cold, who wasn't Stone Cold at the time, he was just the ringmaster. He was going to face Jake the Snake in the next round of the King of the Ring tournament, and they had informed Jake that, or no, they informed Stone Cold that Jake had just cut a religious promo. And so Austin comes out and he's like, "You come out here with your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so." Well, it was just organic, you know. It just rolled off, you know, from the top of his head. So actually, it was
Shiny
Jake the
bald
Snake
head.
cutting a religious promo that spawned the birth of Austin 3:16, which essentially is what saved the WWF during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, that's what got them away from WCW. And, I mean, you know, like I said, if you had to do top three ever, and they did it at WrestleMania 30, that's the only reason why they did it. And Ric Flair, as far as greats and draws, is up there. But, I mean, universally, if you're going to look at it, it's Hogan, The Rock, and Stone Cold that are the top three that probably that the wrestling business has ever produced. And that's no knock to Ric Flair or anybody else, because Flair is, I mean, fuck, he's getting his just dues. I think even more so now with all these rappers and everybody looking at how he lived his lifestyle, and that's what these motherfuckers want to be now. You know, like this Gucci this and
when you're going to talk your
limousine riding and jet flying,
Right.
kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun,
Woo! So you want to talk about your top three, but you have to include the Undertaker.
No, yeah,
I
no,
mean, you can't
yeah.
say those three.
That's not my top three. I would just
Well,
say
okay,
as
all
far
right, well,
as
let's go this
draw,
far.
Mass
Mount,
draw appeal.
Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Who's on it for you?
I mean, there's many ways you can compile this list.
Your personal, not the greatest, just your personal. Who are your top five?
I don't know if I have one.
Okay,
I really
then-
I don't know.
all
if I
At
right.
this
have one.
moment,
At-
right
at-
now.
what?
We'll ask again next
For
week.
this magic moment. I still don't know if I have
Okay,
one.
we'll give you to the next episode to think of that. But
To the next episode.
on the topic of, since we were just talking about Hogan, who's the most overrated wrestler of all time, in your opinion?
Overrated.
Brock Lesnar.
Roman Reigns.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't like him at all.
You're going all time. Roman Reigns is the most overrated. Think about it.
Doink the Clown.
Well, that one's an easy one for me. I'll go with your favorite, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I knew you were going for that.
You think he's overrated?
No.
He had 5 moves or 6 moves,
Well, here's
and,
the thing.
and 3 of them were
Here's
poses.
the thing, though. He was trained by a guy named Hiro Matsuda. And if the guy couldn't wrestle, Hiro Matsuda wasn't going to train him. And he trained the shit out of Hulk, so he broke his leg to get him in the business. Hogan knew how to wrestle, but he didn't have to, because that's not what put asses in seats. It was his character, like you said. It was his charisma. And that's why getting back to why I think wrestling nowadays is so much better, because the characters, there's enough for people to go off of nowadays to build great original characters, and the athleticism is bar none the best it has ever been in any sport, whether it's across the board, football, basketball, baseball, because of the modern technology and nutrition and the way people diet and do their shit, and they can do things with their bodies. You have more of a better, athlete and well-rounded wrestler than you would, say, 20 years ago when Hogan wasn't the only guy. Every guy pretty much in the 80s, unless they were fighting for the Intercontinental title, they were all like that,
It was all charisma.
Yeah, it was all charisma.
Personality.
Legend tells it that
even Bill Goldberg, they packed the Georgia Dome, him versus Hollywood Hogan on Nitro. How many, was that 60,000 people or whatever it fucking was? And Goldberg was still green as fuck. I mean, he put Bret Hart on.
Goldberg was green his entire career.
Yeah, but you know what? And it was that rawness though, and that shit. Like, I was never a huge Goldberg fan, but I will admit it was cool to see him come in, destroy a guy, fucking look huge. Because, dude, we watch this fucking wrestling shit, and you're a liar if anybody out there tells me that you don't see these jacked out motherfuckers and like the shit that they're able to do and perform that maybe. It just gets you pumped up.
But that's why I think Hogan's so overrated because, like I said, he had
brother
6 moves and 3 of them were poses. Okay, you got 1, 2, 3 poses.
That's all you need.
Then he had a punch, a big boot, and a leg drop.
And don't forget he waved.
You're gonna tell me that leg drop's knocking people out? No.
You're telling me when you were young, you used to watch the.
He hates on Hogan.
You used to watch
much.
No, I was never a Hogan fan.
And you used to watch him get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And then he was down on the ground, and the crowd starts cheering, and he gets fired up. You wouldn't get fired up. You'd be like,
no, because his hairline distracted me.
Start fingering his ass or something. Like, I don't like Hulk Hogan.
Well, to each their own.
Okay, so most underrated wrestler of all time.
Underwear Man. I don't know. Underrated?
Do people talk about how athletic Chris Jericho is given his body type? Like, not that he was out of shape.
He was.
But he always looked
weird
like
body now. His like tits are like
he's got a huge like space between his.
I don't mean that
pecs.
when he was in, let's say, when he was at the highlight of his athletic
Undertaker
prowess, whatever his body.
Yeah.
He always had like short short legs and a really long from the waist to his neck. And you wouldn't think that he was athletic, but he would do the same shit that those like luchador fighters would. Like that was around the time Rey Mysterio came out.
Who are we
too.
talking about again?
Chris Jericho.
Well, yeah,
he was able to do everything those other guys. The flips,
and he's still good like that.
Everything.
Yeah. No,
I always liked him a lot, and he also had charisma.
Yeah.
So
that's why he is.
I like Jericho a lot.
And he knows how to work people. He knows how to put himself in a good situation too.
So you're saying you think Jericho's the most underrated wrestler?
I think he's underrated from my knowledge. So I'm coming from a.
I wouldn't say Jericho's underrated.
Take my opinion with a grain of salt.
Early NWO days.
He was never part of it.
Were you? No.
WCW maybe 20 years ago. That's where Sreten. People listening have to realize that's for those of you that want to sit here and
was it August 9th, 1999 that Jericho debuted
in Chicago?
I know it was August 9th because it was my sister's birthday.
Came back to the red and yellow in WCW.
Yeah. So I believe that was 1999.
Yeah.
So should I get back to my stupid history? So
yes,
you could be like, oh, that's why he said Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Jericho with his long legs, no torso.
So that was the 80s Saturday morning stuff. Then it disappeared. Then I have a brother who's a lot younger than me who got into wrestling, so we sort of dabbled in it, but he was really into Glow. So I had a 1 year period.
Really?
The
glorious,
gorgeous ladies.
The original Glow.
Have you watched the Netflix show?
I watched a couple episodes.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, speaking since you say that, because every year WWE does the Hall of Fame. There's like whatever.
A little bit of controversy right now.
Oh, I don't know about the
fabulous moolah.
Yeah, I don't know about that fucking controversy. I don't care. All you people are pussies anyways. You can't fucking get over whatever. So I don't care about that controversy. But what I'm saying is relating to Glow in the WWE Hall of Fame is Ivory. Everybody knows Ivory from back in the day was an original cast member.
Ivory is
Glow.
Extremely underrated.
Yeah, there you go. We'll combine all of this into one. But since you're mentioning Glow, I just wanted to bring up the fact that she is going to be a Hall of Fame inductee this year before WrestleMania.
Unfortunately for Ivory, she was in the Attitude Era to where it was more about tits and ass than actual wrestling talent, which Ivory was extremely talented, along with Molly Holly, who, in my opinion, is very underrated look-wise, because I met her once in Valparaiso, and she's probably the prettiest, like, naturally pretty woman that I've met out of all of them in wrestling, which I've met Trish Stratus, Tori Wilson, Lita, you name it. I've met them all.
Elizabeth! And then he walks away. He walks away, and he's like, man, her pussy stunk.
So anyways,
yeah. So sorry,
you were saying, sorry.
Glow. So my brother got into Glow. So that was, I think there was only 1, maybe 2 seasons of Glow.
Yeah,
it was short.
Yeah.
But it was the same time that American Gladiators came out. So we used to, Saturday nights was American Gladiators and then Glow.
A lot of
And we all watched
testosterone.
it.
Michael Adamle.
And then honestly, that was it until the Wolfpack era. And then I got back into it, and I got back into it like pretty intense. We'd watch every single pay-per-view at a buddy's house.
They were like gang wars, dude.
And maybe I got the timeline wrong, but it was about 2 years where I remember I was in Lafayette for school, and I had my sophomore year, which is 1997, 98, maybe 90. I graduated in 96, but the timeline is, I'm fucking it up. Old. But like 97 was, I had some roommates, and one was a legit like high school wrestler. Him and his family are like wrestlers at Maryville High School, like a lineage of like state finalist
Greg
wrestlers.
Popovich.
By the way, the Juice wrestled
The
for 3
Tabers.
years.
The
I was
Tabers.
no good.
Do you guys know the Tabor family?
Taper me off, buddy.
Tabor.
I don't.
Oh.
But anyways, but we would sit there and do like wrestling matches in our apartment and piss off the neighbors, and we would just like fuck up our furniture, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super fun. And then like I would spend my Mondays watching wrestling and my Thursdays watching wrestling, and then we'd go to somebody's house, and then that's it. After that,
let me ask you this though: was it Nitro and Thunder, or was it
Nitro and
Raw
Thunder?
Yeah, okay.
Nitro and Thunder.
Yeah.
And then watched that for a little while, and then just kind of got tired of it. So I missed the whole what'd you call the era? The
Attitude Era.
I missed the Attitude Era, and it was all.
Well,
I didn't like WWF at that time when it was WWF.
Well, and that was
I was
still-
WCW because of NWO.
Typically, you were one of the
and
other.
a lot of people have that misconception. I think NWO was really the start of the Attitude Era. You know, I mean, it was more realistic.
Well, they had to start the Attitude Era to compete with the NWO.
Right.
But that was
Attitude was
that was
just
the time
edgy.
I was always, from all my experience, WWF was far superior than
Right.
everybody else. And then that
then
stuff happened, and I was like, oh
mid-90s,
shit,
yeah.
WCW is kind of awesome.
Exactly.
And I don't give a shit about WWE because that was also like parallel. It was, I think the Undertaker was still doing stuff, and I'm wrong because I missed the Undertaker doing things. I missed what's his face, Nick. He had like 6 different personalities with Sacco. and
Oh,
all
Mick
that shit.
Foley.
Mick Foley.
Yeah,
Son,
very
not
cool
Nick.
guy.
Mick, but like that whole thing, which some of those like that match, the
Hell in the Cell.
yeah, that
Oh,
was just
when
nuts.
Taker dropped him through the cage?
Yeah, I just watched that again last year when one of my buddies, who's shout out to Dale Scalba, we went over to my buddy's house, the other owner of Green Door, and we watched the last WrestleMania, which was really close to 4 hours long, and it was rough, but it's my reintroduction back into the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we ended up watching old matches after we watched that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the matches
It's
we watched.
addictive, yeah.
So I like the theatricality of everything. I like all the finishing moves.
Well, that's the thing that kills me when people are like, "Oh, wrestling's fake." Like, no, it's not fake. It's the finishes are predetermined, yes, but the risks are real. You know, a lot of the stuff that they're doing, you know,
sex,
is
the
very
violence.
very dangerous. But when they're watching their sitcoms or their movies that they're spending billions at the box office, you know, to watch, they're not saying, "Oh, I'm not going to watch that because it's fake." Which, I mean, your reality TV shows, look at how many writers there are. That's fake because they're trying to portray it as reality to where nowadays, you know, kayfabe's dead and everybody knows, you know, it's predetermined. But the seriousness of the risk of serious injury is still there to where on your sitcoms and all that crap that's actually fake, you know, they have stunt doubles. You know, they're not out there doing it where the wrestlers, you know, these WWE wrestlers are on the road 300 days out of the year, putting their bodies on the line every day.
Doing hard drugs because they're depressed, because they're away from their families.
So
And
Shout
then
out
they
to Jeff
murder.
Hardy.
So would you guys say that a 2018 wrestler at their height? So who's the number one guy right now in
Right now,
WWE?
AJ
Roman
Styles.
Reigns.
Well, if you want to talk about that people actually like, I would say AJ Styles.
Oh yeah, but what WWE's
Roman
trying to
Reigns-
force down your throat.
Well, and
Reigns.
Roman Reigns will get popular because people see. You gotta look at it this way. people dislike him
He
so
was
much.
popular already, though,
But
and they got
look
tired
at that
of
as a
him.
good thing because they consider that drawing heat. But it's not a good heat, you know. It's like a legit, like, man, we really don't fucking like this guy. Like, come on, you know, like. But they're gonna keep doing it because Vince got a hard on for the guy, whatever the case is, you know. But it's just not someone that anybody really gives a fuck to see,
Like,
you know.
the thing with
And there's a lot of
wrestlers
guys
that get over, it's when they're just themselves. It's not a gimmick that WWE's created.
And look
you look at The Rock. The crowd used to chant, "Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks." Then he became The Rock, started acting like a normal guy, himself, got over. Stone Cold got over. Like Mick Foley, he was Mankind, but then once he became Mick Foley, then that's when he really got his pushes, he became WWF champion at the time. Which is funny because Nitro used to win the ratings war, I believe, 82 weeks in a row?
something like that.
Yeah, and then they decided to be smart because at the time WWF used to tape all their Monday Night Raws.
Eric Bischoff, he had his little game.
Yeah, he decided, I'm just going to leak the results of Raw.
Yeah.
So that nobody turns over to it.
Yeah.
Well, they announced that Mick Foley wins the championship. Well,
That was
everybody
the end.
turned over to that and watched that. And that was the end of
WCW's
WCW.
reign.
Yep. Because they decided to give away the ratings. Well, everybody started watching WWF.
By the way, I'm going to give away some secrets. Thank you, Butch Manley, for bringing in these Sherbert fucking gummy bears from Albany's Candy Factory. Another fine product from Northwest Indiana.
Also, if you'd like to watch the only televised match that Butch Manley has had, you can go on YouTube and search J.R. Butchko River Forest. That's Butchko. And you'll see me get a real guitar busted over my head. And it's the only time I've ever been knocked unconscious.
You'll like it. There's a lot of powder in it.
Yeah, it was a good time. I was portraying Sting.
Stop chewing on the mic.
It was in the middle of the
love it.
gymnasium at my high
So
school.
gross.
So, okay, in my
Eric's
opinion,
style.
the most underrated wrestler of all time is Owen Hart. Your thoughts?
He's the most underground wrestler of all time right now. That was bad.
Okay.
All
right, next topic.
I think I could definitely agree with that. Owen, I think in a lot of ways
He was better
outshined-
than Brett.
Yeah. I think out
It's
of
just
all
Brett
the
was
Hart
already
brothers,
a made character.
all the Hart brothers, and there were, God knows, there was a lot of them. Helen, what was it, Stuart and Helen? They like to bump uglies. Would they have like 10 or 13 kids, something like that?
Yeah. There's
I think Owen was definitely the best out of all of them. It sucks what happened to him, and there's people that like to make a big deal over it and blame Vince Russo for this and that, and you even got Bret Hart who's really bitter about it, which understandable.
his
It's his
brother
brother.
died. Yeah.
Understandable, but it's a stunt. And like I said,
which Owen did not want to do.
He didn't want to do it, but he did it. He got paid. That's what he was getting paid to do, and he
Paid
did
to
it.
die.
But sometimes you gotta die to get paid. Look at Brandon Lee.
I ain't getting bit by that cobra.
What up, Mach?
Where's the snake man? You get bit first. The macho man? No way.
See, it's coming out, man.
It'll get there.
You're about to
I just wet myself.
start carrying around coffee creamers in your pocket.
Wet them up. That's what we do, JP Tub. We like to rise to the top.
Cream rises to the top. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
See?
Damn, I need to
We
bring
need to
the
get you
key.
some shades with some fucking jagged spikes.
Get him a
on.
robe, and you just walk downtown Hobart with
You
the
can go to
fucking
Toys R
Macho
Us
Man.
right now. For,
Elizabeth. Hey, just don't walk past Games Inn. And he's sort of.
We're not talking about that.
We're talking about pro wrestling. Juice Pro Wrestling.
so
podcast.
also the weekend of WrestleMania, Mick Foley's going to be doing a WrestleMania viewing party in Chicago, which is pretty cool. Ticket price is a little steep, but
as they always are.
Well, yeah,
Mick
I mean,
Foley
it's-
needs more money to feed his hot daughter with it. She's double
their
D's.
big old booty. But no, it's pretty cool though. Mick Foley's not really a part of WWF or WWE anymore. But yeah.
Check it out.
I mean, if it includes the price of the pay-per-view,
Sex
and
with
the
his
meet and
daughter,
greet and
then it's well
everything.
worth it.
Where's it at? Do you know any of the details? Just it's
The
in
place
Chicago?
in particular, I don't remember. I shared it to
I just wondered. I don't know.
the Juice Pro Wrestling Facebook page. I shared it on there. So
Yeah, by the way, speaking of bringing that up on Facebook, you can find us at Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can also, there's a group attached to that under Juice Pro Wrestling, and on Twitter, that's JP Dub Podcast at JP Dub Podcast on Twitter. So you want to follow that. Also follow
Green Door Network.
Green Door's not on Twitter, but Green Door's on iTunes. Green Door's on Stitcher. GreenDoorNetwork.com. And Music Med Podcast on Twitter. Musically Meditated. My boy Joe. Shout out to Joe Riley.
Don't forget also
Hashtag the Irish Curse.
March 25th at the Hobart Theater, the Art Theater in Hobart. Jake the Snake anti-variety show.
Where's the snake?
He'll be doing a comedy set, so be sure to come out and check that out.
Yeah, but don't talk about drug abuse during that because that shit ain't funny, motherfucker.
And don't bring up Beyond the Mat because that's a sore subject with him.
Sorer than the sores on his lips.
About as sore as his experience with Bill Watts.
Ooh, Bill Watts, cowboy Bill Watts.
Bill Watts really screwed him over in his
in the Southern Territory.
His guaranteed money in WCW when he left WWF.
WCW. Oh, hey.
Do you have any more questions for me?
I have a lot of questions for you, Sreten.
Go ahead.
To keep these people entertained because that's what it's all about is keeping you guys entertained. Going back to the 80s, who's one of your top heels, top favorite villains from like 80s wrestling, 80s, early, mid-90s?
I'm trying to think. Name some.
Ravishing Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect.
I like Mr. Perfect just because I like the finishing move. I used to do
the Perfect Plex?
Yeah, I used to do the Perfect Plex to everybody.
You're a sick fuck.
That's my still like all my girlfriends get the Perfect Plex. That's my move. Actually, the girl I'm currently dating, I did the what's his name?
Would you kill her?
The woman that I am currently dating. I think last year I did the what was Sid's not Sid Savage.
Powerbomb. Sid Vicious.
The rack. Who did
the torture rack? Total package. Lex Luger.
Lex Luger did, and I always thought it was a bullshit move. So I picked her up last year, the same move, and I started bouncing around her dining room.
Don't try to sit home.
And I legitimately hurt her back. I felt so bad.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was a bullshit move.
You are a fucking filthy human being, Sreten.
But
that's why you're so savage.
Name some other ones.
All right.
Mr. Perfect was pretty great. Ravishing Rick Rude was funny.
Rick Rude was
to me.
He was great. Cut the music for all you fat, out of shape SummerSlam sweat hogs. Feast your eyes as I take my robe off and witness a real man. I love that shit, dude. That
was good.
And he was good. And like I said, if you're watching wrestlers, you're looking at real life comic book heroes. So for me as a kid, and I used to love like Conan movies and shit. We're like just big fucking ripped dudes tearing shit up. And back in the 80s, man, that's what it was. And Rick Rude was fucking the epitome of a motherfucker who was in shape. And that guy could wrestle though too. And he legit was one of those dudes. One of the greatest things about Rick Rude, and this is a guy nowadays, Velveteen Dream has kind of taken a little bit from Rick Rude as far as the airbrushing and the tights. You guys listening that watch NXT know what I'm talking about. Back in the day, Rick Rude feuding with your boy Jake the Snake Roberts. To get some heat on him, he has Jake's wife fucking airbrush on his crotch, on his tights. It's like, come on, man. Same thing with the Warrior. He had like the Warrior on his ass or something on the tights. He always had the airbrush tights that were custom, and he was fucking cool. He had great personality. Another guy, I think, a villain back in the 80s. I mean, Iron Sheik. You got the Iron Sheik. Well, how old is that little? Is that a thumb wrestler? What is this?
No, it's not a thing. It's a regular like movable wire skeleton wrestling action figure.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna inspect.
We have a Iron Sheik wrestling action figure in the
copyright.
studio.
This is how old this is. Is copyright 1985. I guess. Oh, for you motherfuckers out there to watch the Angry Video Game Nerd. This was made by LGN, one of the worst manufacturers of video game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. They did a lot of shit. But this is 1985. Keep in mind, this is on the ass of the Iron Sheik. 1985.
They used to stamp all the asses.
Yeah, I love. 1985 LJN Ltd. Copyright Titan Sports, which for those of you that don't know, which was WWE's trademark back in the day. And this is
Back at Titan Towers.
what, his fucking nose. He looks like he's got a skeleton nose. He kind of looks more like Hitler, a bald Hitler, than he does.
The nose has been
Iron
bitten
Sheik
off.
right now. His nose. Sreten got hungry one
I was
night.
saying Ming must have gotten to him.
Yeah, Ming, and he tore
Wrestling's
his.
fake.
He's got a fucked up ACL right now on this action figure. His fucking elbow shot.
Bites the Iron Sheik's nose, jabroni.
Fucking Iron Sheik just walked in the studio here at the Green Door Network. I'm fear for my ass and being humble. I will never be humble unless I get fucked in the ass.
Name
by the
some
Iron
other
Sheik.
80s villains.
need
So
to
the
get
Iron
the
Sheik was pretty good.
Here we go for one of the top.
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
Yes. Maybe
Indeed.
he's my favorite.
Maybe, and just for what he, what was it? Tales from Frogtown. I think that was a movie, or Adventures in Frogtown.
Did They
whatever.
Live?
And
One of the
then
best fight scenes.
They Live. They were
Yeah,
both recorded.
24 minutes long.
Yeah,
One of the
Yeah.
best ones.
it was a great movie. Put
One
on
of the
the
best-
fucking glasses.
One of the best quotes in a movie ever
Yeah,
was his I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys all know that shit. That's good shit. Roddy Piper, definitely. I seen him wrestle Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 8. As far as I can recall, that's the only time I've seen him wrestle. And Piper, unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago now.
Right after he had just shot a commercial in Valparaiso.
Yeah, for a Klondike bar.
Bars. Yeah.
Unfortunately, and Roddy Piper had a good podcast going on too.
The Piper's
Much respect to Roddy Piper. I'm not a fan of Rowdy Ronda Rousey tongue twister shit.
You got it.
Not a fan of that shit though. And taken from his gimmick.
Although he did give
He gave her its
the
blessing, but it
permission,
doesn't mean it's cool. I don't give a fuck. I'm that
They
guy
already
who
got
put
her
it out
shirts
there.
in Hot Topic at the mall.
Yeah. I'm that guy who'll put out there and say that, like, while you as a fan base might think that that's fucking cool and nostalgic and awesome, I'm here to put that dick in your ass and say, no, it's not.
I don't know. I might start following Roddy Ronda.
No, who cares about Ronda Rousey? Right now, like, who really does? Anyways, let's get out of that talk. Let's go back to the 80s. In the 80s, Greg the Hammer Valentine. He was. I liked him, but he wasn't. He didn't really have much of a character. But he was just his face. He had that like cut stone motherfucking face. He was just a big.
I met him in Hammond.
The Hammer.
15, 16 years ago, and his face looked like he got hit with a hammer.
Yeah, it always did. I always liked it.
He looked like he just smelled somebody's
What
fart.
about here's a good story for you. Coco
Just like my
Beware.
face.
Remember Coco Beware?
Yeah.
The Birdman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we were in band in high school in
a
2000.
great
Went
name.
down to Florida, and he was in our hotel, and our principal had found him. It's like,
Is that
Coco
when
Beware.
Big Ed the Assassin
Yeah.
cried?
Yeah,
Tower of Terror.
the Tower of Terror. Yeah, made him drop his pants.
Hi, Ed.
Me and Eddie went and met up with Coco Beware because our principal at the time fucking duct taped his room up. And no one really gave a fuck besides me and Ed. And it's like, it's Coco Beware, like the sometimes love is like a hard dance. And sometimes love is like a pile driver. I totally fucked that up. But you know what I'm talking about. I got that shit on vinyl. Pile Driver. Everybody remembers that shit in the 80s, dude. The wrestling album. I own the original copy. Thank you, Galactic Greg's, Valparaiso, Indiana. And Record Store Day, they came out with it was a dual copy
re-release?
of the re-release of the first and second albums on red and yellow clear see-through vinyl. Great shit for you guys out there, 80s nostalgic fans, of guys, Macho Man, Iron Sheik. And here's one thing for you guys. A lot of
What
people
did the
know.
Iron Sheik do?
What the
A
Iron
rap?
Sheik do?
Did they all do raps if they couldn't
Oh
sing?
no, the Slickster. Yeah, no, the Reverend Slick. What was it? Jive Soul, bro. You a Jive Soul, bro.
The Slick Rick.
I was. You know what? Fuck it. Let's get into that, Sreten. What are some of the managers from the 80s that you can recall? Because that's what the 80s was it for wrestling managers, and
Yeah.
they're pretty much a dead thing nowadays.
Mr. Fuji.
You have Paul Heyman now, and that's it.
Who was the dude that was like not the rock and roll guy? He had long hair.
Captain Lou Albano.
Captain Lou Albano. He was
remember him.
Super Mario.
Yeah.
Captain Lou Albano was great.
He was great.
Just the Cyndi Lauper videos.
Yeah,
the, the rubber band.
Yeah, girls just want to have fun.
It was what the hell's his name? He had like a jazzy. What was it?
Michael P.S. Hayes? Doc Hendricks.
Jim Cornette.
Nope.
No, he didn't have long
What
hair.
was his name? Name some of those managers.
Long hair.
Bobby the Brain Heenan.
No, he didn't have long.
No.
Oh, Jimmy the Mouth of South Heart.
Yes.
Yeah, with the megaphone.
Yes. Yeah.
And the
him.
shades. Come on, baby.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's
buddy.
my guy. Yeah. That's the best. He's the best one.
You know, and it was so weird to see because he managed all the bad dudes in the 80s, you know? And then when he finally jumped ship to Hogan.
Yeah, I was
going
going to say he
days,
also managed the most overrated wrestler.
This guy is a piece of shit.
I am a real American.
Yeah, that song was actually
that
not
song
for Hulk
still
Hogan.
charges me up.
It does too. Me too. But I'm here to spoil everybody's fun that does not know that song was not originally for Hulk Hogan. That was for Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. I think what were they called? The Real Americans. I can't remember, but they were tag teaming these, and that was by Rick Derringer, who much respect, much props to Rick fucking Derringer. That's who that song, and that's on the original wrestling album.
Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
Yeah, fuck yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's right.
Rock and Roll
Johnny Winter.
Hoochie Coo.
Yeah,
Yeah. Rick Derringer. He remade it.
yep.
Can't.
And
After like it was. What did you say? Jimmy the Heart. Jimmy the Mouth. What'd you
Mouth
say?
of South Heart. And,
Mouth of the Heart.
And by the
So-
way, another time, another place, another universe, JP Dub is going to go on an episode. We're going to do a Versus episode with Musically Meditated podcast. It's another great podcast you can catch on the Green Door Network. Wrestling and rock and roll and music, as everybody knows, are very well entwined with each other. So be on the lookout for that episode. We're going to do the top favorite wrestling theme songs ever.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot. Of
There's a
good ones.
lot. I you know what? I tried to do like a mixtape CD, and fuck, I couldn't fit it all of them on.
The two things that I was impressed with when I
What's
was
one of yours?
reintroduced, yeah, the Hulk one. is
The Hulk
always-
one?
That's
Well,
a classic.
Ultimate Warrior always got me pumped, too,
Yeah,
dude.
Ultimate Warrior. It made me want to keep stare at
Yeah.
the TV as
Yeah.
I ran through the wall.
I was somehow 8 years old and wanted to do a lot of cocaine. You know,
You felt like you just did a lot of cocaine.
yeah. You know,
Even
that's
the
why they
new
gave me
ones,
Ritalin.
whatever what was the NWO one?
Oh, Rock House. It was just Jimi Hendrix
Jimi
shit
Hendrix,
chopped up, but it was
yeah.
so great.
That was,
Child.
yeah, Voodoo Child. That was
Hogan
good.
coming out to Voodoo Child was a great. Once
Yes.
again, and the charisma thing. He just come on. It was just so.
Yeah.
It was so gangsta, dude. It was so pimp. Like
Yeah.
he's OG Hogan.
You can. We're gonna change your mind about Hogan.
Yeah,
Give him any character, and that character ended up being. I mean, he only had two,
Mr. America,
but he always.
Thunderlips.
What are the odds that whatever he decides to do, he's the
Meatball.
most popular one, even with nostalgia involved? But
Yeah.
back to the other question was the agents.
Yes, the managers.
Managers. After Hart was Paul Bearer.
Paul Bearer. Okay.
I don't know why he sticks in my mind, but he sure does.
Oh, yes, my Undertaker.
He might have been one of the last ones.
He
Who
was.
would be out there after him?
Well, no. There's been a lot of managers since, and
Mr. Fuji.
yeah, Mr. Fuji. If you want to talk about in that era, you had like Jimmy
Who's the
Mouth of
best
South
one?
Heart, Bobby the Brain Heenan. No
Oh, yeah.
bars.
Bobby the Brain. Yeah.
Bar
He
none.
managed Andre, Mr. Perfect,
Paul Orndorff.
Paul Orndorff.
$1 Million Man, Mr. Yeah, you already said Mr. Perfect.
Does Brock Lesnar have a manager?
Yeah,
Who's
Paul
the guy
Heyman.
that
Paul
speaks
Heyman.
for him?
Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and,
would
and in
say-
real life, it's his wife Sable,
Yeah,
who was huge in WWF.
huge tits.
Oh, I
She did
remember her
Playboy
now.
a couple
Yeah,
times.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
very
he ended up
And
marrying
then Brock
her.
did her
Good
a couple
for
times.
After he won the UFC championship, he was like, "I'm gonna go home and drink a couple of
Coors
Lights. That's Coors Lights because Bud Light won't pay me." He's like, and then I might even have sex with my old lady. And that old lady.
And then I
is
really
Sable.
had sex with her, so.
You wish.
As far as charisma, I never thought Brock had a lot, but as far as athletic ability and just
Intimidation.
he's just intimidation
He's an
and everything.
attraction, dude. Just
and then
like Andre.
when you look at his work ethic and stuff, and when he transitioned into actual mixed martial arts and was successful,
yeah.
because
And he
other
tried
people
football
have
before
tried
that.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, he
you
tried out
you
with the
gotta have
Vikings.
respect. He almost killed himself when he first got into MMA. Like he had like
he got diverticulitis.
Yeah.
which is like small holes in your intestines. My mom
watched
actually
that.
had it.
I paid for that Overeem pay-per-view, and I was pissed because I knew that first kick to the gut when he went down, and I was like, God
And he
damn
just
it.
waved him off like I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but he's still like his whole history. I have a ton of respect for him.
Yeah, he's
That's
a country
not
boy.
easy.
Brock's old white country boy. He's
All
a
he does
fighter.
is hunt, train, and watch hunting shows.
He does his fucking thing, and he's good for it. And I think at this point in his career, and Brock's gonna be if he's not already 40 this year, and I still think because his contract is up after WrestleMania. So you guys listening, I don't know when this podcast is gonna be airing, but WrestleMania in early April 4th, 5th, whatever the hell date it is.
6th.
6th. Thank you, Butch Manley.
Very welcome.
It'll that's it. And he's been talking with Dana White. There's pictures of him being with Dana White, and I'm the kind of the guy at this point I don't really give a fuck whether Brock, because I don't know how he's really still an attraction. I mean, other than it's cool
It's a
because
name.
he's legit.
I mean,
But
how many
for
times
me,
did Chuck Liddell come back? And he got his ass whooped every
But that
time.
feeling is kind of wore off for me in Brock. It's like I don't care. They're not putting him in enough good, situations to where people should care. I mean, they have done it. They just put him with AJ Styles before AJ won the belt, it was going to be WWE champ Jinder Mahal, who nobody gave a fuck about.
Right.
And the only reason
It was simply because they did that
it's
tour
corporate.
in India.
Yeah, it's corporate push bullshit. Money making bullshit. They did that, and it was going to be Jinder versus Brock. Who the fuck in their right mind wants to see that? Now, AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar. Now, let me tell you this. There's a story to be told. And then, as we all know as pro wrestling fans, it's all about the story as well as what plays out in the ring athletically. You had two guys who were ex-IWGP heavyweight champions, and there are two of maybe only 3 or 4 guys, gringos, however you want to say it, white guys from the United States that have held that title. And it's a pretty damn prestigious title. It's a pretty elite club of guys who have held that belt. That's something you could have played off of. Not to mention the fact that both guys are just over huge. And WWE hates to acknowledge anybody that's over not because of them. And which surprisingly, AJ being where he's at right now, I'm still very surprised that he is WWE champion, getting ready to main event WrestleMania, because he was not WWE. He was not created there.
Well,
They
you
don't
also got to
push that.
think, though, what's going to be the shelf life of Brock in UFC? He's going to come back in a year or two, and they're going to need a
it's a
storyline to
payday.
work off of then.
One
So
fight
maybe
for
they'll
him.
do it then. But I heard that once Brock leaves, that they're going to bring Bobby Lashley back in.
Well, I had also read that for me, we'll do a dream scenario setup. Bobby Lashley, is done with Impact, TNA, whatever you want to call it. I've heard there have been talks. I've also heard that there were talks after Mania for him to do a program with Lesnar, which I think would be awesome. But what I think would be so much more sweeter is if WWE took an angle, they booked an angle, a storyline with those two, because everybody wants to see that. Because
Well, Brock's ever beaten everybody's
Bobby
ass, and
Lashley
then
is the
Lashley
black
comes
version of Brock Lesnar,
Right.
And he's legit, and he has a better MMA
or
record.
Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, and he's managed to do. And
I don't think Lashley's ever been beaten in MMA.
Yeah, he's had 2 losses, but
Oh,
he's like
really?
15-16 or 2.
Well, he
or
beat
whatever. You can
what's his
Google
name? That huge dude.
Yeah, he's had some good fights, and Lashley's good. I mean, just look at the guy. He's fucking jacked.
Right.
But here's what it boils down to: is you have basically, essentially, another Brock Lesnar-esque character that someone who could legit threaten that motherfucker, and people can believe it.
Right.
And it'd be a good it'd be good storytelling. That's what wrestling's all about. And they could book that fucking match, but they're probably gonna fuck it up, and it's not gonna happen. And if they were to book it, they should totally book it and fuck the UFC, fuck the cross promoting shit. Get the fucking license from whatever athletic commission in whatever city you decide to hold it. Hold the actual MMA fight between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley in the WWE. Do like a Lion's Den-esque match, but do a real MMA shit.
It's never going to happen as far
It'll
as
never happen.
licensing. and
No, it'll
everything.
never
It's-
happen.
You have to get cleared from the Nevada State
Well, wherever they're at, wherever they're at,
which
there's
most
athletic
likely
commissions.
it's going to be Nevada. They're going to do it in Vegas, but I don't see them clearing them to do a UFC fight, but in WWE. I just think there would be too much legality.
And the reason I say that is because you look at the old school Brawl for All, you know, when they tried to do a legit boxing match.
Bart
and they
Gunn
Bart Gunn
versus Butterbean.
knocks out, he knocks out Dr. Death, the guy who was booked
Supposed to win it, yeah.
And he legit knocked him out. And then here's your treat. You get Butterbean. And fucking Mania knocks him out.
Yeah.
And Bart Gunn was, ruined his fucking career. But
Hey, it ruined his career for being successful, pretty much, because he shouldn't have even beaten Dr. Death. But
it might be a good way to halt the slow death of kayfabe is to actually have a legit MMA fight.
that's what I'm saying.
two guys
That's
and
what
then-
makes
Did
it
you guys say that?
believable. That's what brings it up.
He's
That's
talking
what I was
about Bobby
saying.
Lashley versus
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Brock Lesnar.
I heard you guys talking
To
about
have
it, but to have something like that would in the future be like, well,
It blurs the lines.
it blurs
Yeah.
the lines.
And it creates the kayfabe again, which is all about creating interest in your product and getting people to, once again, fucking hashtag believe in what you're fucking doing. And that's what it's about in wrestling. Everybody knows it's fixed, but when, especially nowadays, if you can pull that off and make it seem very fucking legit, then
Or
you're
at least
doing
some
something
of it.
good.
At least some of it, because back to the thing about what you guys asked me earlier about my history. When I came back to it last year, and I'm still ankle deep in the waters. I'm not that far in, but one of the things that did impress me was because I did watch it with I watched it with a guy that came back to it just like me, and then a third person who was hardcore. He was the one that was filling us in for WrestleMania. He's filling us in on everything because we didn't know anything.
Right.
But every time, what was impressive was the fans, the chants, the catchphrases. So while this 3.5 hour event was going on, the people that were the diehards would know everything that if like the wrestler said something, what that response
Let me
was.
ask you
all
this,
the
though.
different chants.
You had a good fucking time, though, didn't you?
I did until hour 2.5.
Well,
like 4 hours. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 4
it
hours
gets
is
a
a
little
bit,
long.
but
It's rough.
here's
And the final fight was Undertaker, and it kind of just like you watched him drag ass for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it just ended.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In WWE,
At the beginning, I sure did.
and they're starting to usher in more new stars, so that won't necessarily be the case now. As far as a lot of guys dragging ass, but WrestleMania and WWE just in general, their pay-per-views anymore, they're always constantly disappointments. But WrestleMania is the one you want to tune into because
Simply because of the entrances.
well,
mean,
all
yeah,
the,
they always have the
everything,
cool
everything about
entrances.
it. Because at this is what I'm talking about. I'm like I said, I'm
It's
35.
the Super Bowl of wrestling.
It's exactly. We're at this stage now in the game where it is, from a marketing standpoint, it is that big. There's a whole, just like Super Bowl, there's a whole WrestleMania week, wherever they do it out. And you know what? Whatever fucking city they go and do that, WWE,
It's big.
It's big. And it generates
sold
big
out.
revenue
Yeah.
for the city that whole fucking week. Which
Where's
kind of
that?
pisses me off because I would really like it to come back to Indianapolis. I mean,
say
dude.
Chicago.
Well, Chicago.
When was the last time they were in Chicago?
When's that, dude? Last.
WrestleMania 20?
Yeah, but that's longer. No, 20 was back in Madison Square Garden.
Oh.
Chicago was.
Where's this year?
Oh, it was like 23 because you went to the.
I went to 13 in Chicago.
Yeah, but remember you went to like a breakfast with the fuckers.
Oh yeah,
It's like
bacon
20.
bagels and biceps, which is the biggest
The gay
ripoff in the world.
advertising.
Okay, so they advertise it as for $150, you can.
What did you expect?
Well,
Bacon bagels and biceps.
the way they advertised it was for $150, you get a ticket to this bacon bagels and biceps like breakfast with wrestlers before WrestleMania. So
Did they have ex Benedict there?
I don't know. I didn't even eat breakfast. I was just like, oh, I want to meet the
You're too
wrestlers.
pissed.
So I get there, and I'm thinking, okay, well, they're going to have a wrestler at each table, and, you eat with them. No, they had a conference table with a bunch of people that were there, like Sherry Martel, Tatanka.
She's dead.
Mr. Anderson, like people that weren't even going to be at WrestleMania.
Water bottle smells like
And
marijuana.
so after you eat breakfast, whatever, and they all told their favorite WrestleMania moments. They're like, okay, well, now the wrestlers have to get off to WrestleMania. Have a good day. Okay, none of them are even at
That's
WrestleMania.
great. That's like.
So you just charged me $150 to sit here and listen to a bunch of has-beens talk about their favorite WrestleMania moments.
How did they advertise it? Who was supposed to come?
Bacon
Mystery
bagels
people?
and biceps.
Well, they didn't specify. That's the whole thing. Which why I think they don't do it anymore.
How's the food?
I didn't even eat.
He was.
I
too
just went there to
pissed.
meet the
Jared's the
wrestlers.
type of guy he gets butt hurt and he gets fucking. He was mad.
Hey, you're breaking kayfabe. I'm Butch Manley. So
What?
but yeah, no. So I after that I just lost faith in WWE. Like you just took $150 from me for nothing.
They're good. They're a machine, but they're good. They have 90% of the fucking best talent you can get in their company today. Now,
and they
whether
underutilize it.
Well, yeah, whether they do that or not, they're fucking. At the end of the day, they're the ones running the show, and people still tune in. It's not crazy numbers like it was when we were kids growing up, and they were doing what.
When DX
Almost
would tell the
6 million
crowd
viewers
to show their tits, and they showed their tits.
Yeah. The NWO said too sweet and DX said suck it, and you all fucking loved it. And now there ain't none of that going on,
Yeah, what is there now? Like,
well, no,
it's
what
a
there
new
is.
day.
No, speaking of
Eat
now,
your
that's where we get
bootios.
away from the WWE when we talk about the Bullet Club and New Japan Pro Wrestling, the Young Bucks and Kenny
Well, that's for
Omega.
a future episode.
Oh, that's every episode, because if you guys don't go to youngbucksmerch.com right now, prowrestlingtees.com, any Bullet Club or Young Bucks t-shirt, any cast member from Being the Elite episode, you can get your product from there, and you'll be very well pleased.
So, March 25th, here in Hobart, Indiana, Art Theater, the Anti-Variety Show hosted
Someone's
by
gonna
Jake the
pull out
Snake
a
Roberts. When you meet Jake, what's the one question you'd like to ask him?
That's a tough one too. That's like, you put yourself in these positions to like people that you've always wanted to meet and you have a lot of respect for and would want to talk to, but when you get down to it,
I mean, he's bar none the greatest ring psychologist.
of
all time.
for sure. Like as a kid, I said,
You
loved
could pick
him. He
his
got
brain
me-
on any topic, any wrestler. What's one thing you want to ask him?
I know what I'd ask.
What would you ask him, Sren?
He was a superstar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was one of the greats.
Yeah.
Yes.
People still know his name. Like to this day, you say Jake the Snake, and it's like everybody knows what you're talking about.
So in that world or any world of entertainment, when you know that maybe not on a movie star level, because movie stars do their thing and then maybe they are exposed to their audience afterwards, a year later, a year and a half later, if they get lucky enough to get a hit. In that world, you're playing to the crowd just like a comedian.
Right.
Before you become a superstar, you're hustling, you're eating shit. Like you're doing all this stuff to become this thing
Right.
that everybody loves or follows. I would like to ask him, when was the moment, if there was one moment, where he knew he had everyone?
Superstar. Right.
Where he knew that everybody was
That's
like,
a good question. Yeah.
you look around and if there was the feeling where he like,
Yeah.
what was that moment where you were like, when you had them all in the palm of your hand? Where if he would just change one word, it would change the crowd's attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was at Randy Savage's wedding.
Oh, when the Cobra popped out?
Out of the
that
box,
was great.
yeah.
That was great. That was great. Sreten They, for maybe we'll post those videos and shit on YouTube.
Give you guys a little backstory.
Yeah, what we're talking about here, all the subject matter you'll find on YouTube. Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Green Door Network.
Green Door Network, motherfucker. Anyways, Jake, that Cobra popping out of the box, dude, the match made in heaven shit, like that shit got me so pumped. And that was when Jake the Snake was with the Undertaker too. They were kind of
Yeah, he was training him.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It was like the darkness meets the darkness. And here's the thing: is the Undertaker, his character was so dark. He's the dead man, right? But Jake was just even that much more sadistic, and was like, "No, man." So
Well, because the Undertaker was undead evil, and
Jake was just
Jake was just
evil.
living evil.
Yeah, it was good, dude. It was good. I love those tights too. Remember the like blue and red and yellow flames with the cobras coming up the side? Jake, here's another thing. There's another thing, maybe for another episode, wrestling attire and tights. Jake the Snake's another guy. He always had memorable shit, ring gear. I mean, the
The most
boots.
memorable is definitely Rick Rude, though.
Well, Rick Rude's Yeah, Rick
Nobody
Rude.
tops him. I mean,
But
he would
Bam
switch
Bam
it up
Bigelow,
every
I
week.
like
And
him.
look at Jake the
Yeah.
Snake.
I like
Cactus,
his
Cactus
tights.
Jack
Scott
copied
Bigelow.
Jake's boots. You know, the snakeskin boots.
yeah.
And Jake always had good. He always had good tire. But yes, Rick Rude. I definitely agree. Rick Rude had some good shit. And then I always dug Hollywood Hogan shit. You know, the airbrush shit. All those NWO guys had airbrush shit. And it was so cheap.
They just
and
had a guy in
whatever.
the back lot like, "Oh, you're in the NWO now?
Yeah.
Here, I'll spray paint you something now too."
Yeah,
Like,
and that was
every week somebody joined the NWO. Like,
another place.
I mean,
another
Virgil
time.
was in the NWO. Come on, he was Vincent, and like that was just,
Yeah,
Come on.
you know, he was too sweet.
So
I know where your first beef is going to come from.
Where's
The
that?
two of you versus Virgil. We're going to get
Oh,
him
fuck
on here.
Virgil.
Virgil loves me.
Oh,
Virgil
you know.
hugged me.
Does
he?
he?
Was
He
like,
did hug him. He's like, you
Not
know
after
what?
he hears these two episodes.
He's gonna be like, JR, you were genuinely black, and I love you. And you know, we love people of all creed and color, and you know, because we're wrestling fans, and that's what it's all about. And Virgil has a big ass heart, and that heart
he can
was
suck
filled,
his own heart.
That heart was filled with so much knowledge that he bestowed upon us
Yes, for 4 hours.
for 4 hours, talking about the ins and outs of professional wrestling and
And Andre's ins and outs.
certain measurements and bravados of superstars of the past that you all adore.
And his love for Olive Garden.
Oh, he really loves the Olive Garden.
And he is not lonely.
No, he's not alone. He got all that fuck money. You know?
He's got it in Cleveland and
And
Chicago.
by the way, Virgil, you hearing this? You owe me like $20 for popping you. Saying,
Wait, hold up. Hey, Virgil, remember that bag of chips and that pop I bought you?
Yeah, Virgil, you got some Doritos, you motherfucking scavenger. I quit yesterday.
Are you guys comfortable with concluding episode 2 this way?
Yeah, we're comfortable if you're comfortable.
Do you want to pitch anything again?
Green Door Network. The Anti-Variety Show in Hobart, Indiana, March 25th.
JR's all about
Headlining
that
by
show.
Jake the Snake Roberts. He's doing a comedy set.
Jake, there's a snake in my pants, Roberts.
Anything else?
Everybody gets quiet. Follow us online. You get updates, information, links, and all that shit for everything we do on JP Dub Podcast at JP Dub Podcast on Twitter and Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast group on Facebook and Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast on Facebook itself. Sreten, what do you got to say?
Sreten's got nothing to say. Yeah, it's the
When
Macho
I'm up,
Man.
when I'm up, when I'm up, when I'm up, when I'm up.